Months ago, I made a video about my first impressions of Rwby Ice Queendom. While I was skeptical about it, I was still willing to watch the whole series in the hope that it would make me a fan of Rwby again. I may dislike the latest seasons of Rwby, but I was a fan at one point. So was this series worth it, or did it get my hopes up for nothing? Well, let's jump into my review and find out. Also, this review will contain some spoilers. With that out of the way, let's start with the story. After discovering that Weiss was taken over by a nightmare Grimm, Rwby and her team go into Weiss's dreams to try to save her. However, unlike when Team Juniper went in to save their leader, John, the nightmare controlling Weiss is powerful. It seems no matter what they try, Weiss easily stops them. Can Rwby and her team find a way to save Weiss, or is it too late to save their friend? So like I said months ago, I was hoping this series would be great. Again, the same studio that made Madoka Magica was making their own version of Rwby. That enough made me want to watch this in the first place, but was it enough to make me keep watching it? For the most part, yes. This series does many things I love, and what's better is it feels like there are things people like me have wanted Rooster Teeth to fix about Rwby for years. I'll start with the small things I love and move up to my favorites. Off the bat, I love the designs of everyone in Weiss's dream. It might sound like a small detail, but seeing new outfits for some characters was nice. It makes sense that they would need outfits fit for the cold because of the setting in Weiss's dream. Not only that, but as a cosplayer, it's cool seeing a series give a winter version of characters for anyone doing a cosplay when it's cold. One of the things that drew me into the original series was hearing that Monty designed his characters in mind for people who would want to cosplay them. So he gave his characters pockets and pouches for a cosplayer to carry their phone and wallet. Again, I know it might be small to some people, but it reminds me of one of the reasons I first got into Rwby. To add to the redesigns, I love whoever had the bright idea to make Weiss look like Esda from A Comic Got Kill. It's so fitting because Weiss is supposed to be Ice Queendom's antagonist, and they are similar in a few ways. For example, they're both associated with ice and fight with rapier swords. Again, just something I found cool about the series. Pun intended. Next, I love that the series keeps Team Rwby as the focus. Before we go much further, I want to talk about one of my favorite creators on YouTube, Manga Common, who does videos on games and animated shows. I'm bringing him up because he's done videos complaining about Rwby in the past. One complaint he's brought up is that the series likes to focus on too many characters, which, to be fair, isn't a new problem. In Volume 1, John got his own arc where he reveals he cheated to get into Beacon. He also has to deal with Cardin blackmailing him about this. The worst part about this, though, was it never came up again after this arc ended. It's never talked about him breaking the rules to get into Beacon again, he never worries about Ozpin finding out about this, and I honestly forgot this was a plot point in Volume 1. Not to mention, it also took episodes away that could have helped develop members of Team Rwby. You know, the characters the series is named after? Thankfully, this isn't a problem in Ice Queendom. The series knows that the main characters are Team Rwby and does a dedicated episode to other characters like John or Team Juniper. If another character does show up, it's only to help Team Rwby, like when Sun talks to Blake or Rwby talking to Team Juniper in episode 6. It's not to say that you can't enjoy characters that aren't Team Rwby. There are characters I like that aren't them, such as John or Adam, and I'm okay with one-off episodes that give them the spotlight. Like I said in my first impressions video, I would have liked Team Juniper to get more time to show them saving John when a nightmare possessed them. However, I don't want a whole arc dedicated to them as the focus. At least not an arc in a series where the main characters are supposed to be Team Rwby. I'd prefer they were given a short spin-off series, similar to how Hiro Mashima made Fairy Tail Zero as a prequel to Fairy Tail. If there's enough interest, and you feel you can make a good spin-off to focus on other characters, then I don't see why you couldn't give Team Juniper a spin-off manga as an example. It gives them time to shine on their own instead of feeling like they're stealing the spotlight from the main characters. Next, I want to talk about the fights in Ice Queendom. Again, one of my complaints about the original series was characters felt overpowered during fights. If a character feels overpowered when fighting, I won't feel concerned that they might lose. Thankfully, Ice Queendom fixed what I felt was the biggest issue with Rwby. At no time did I ever feel like Rwby, Blake, or Yang would easily beat the Grimm possessing Weiss. Seeing them fight Weiss makes it clear they don't stand a chance against her, even if they're working together. And before someone says I'm being a hypocrite praising Weiss for being overpowered, there are 2 reasons why it works with her in this situation. 1. She's the antagonist. Usually the antagonist is more powerful than the protagonist, and part of the hero's journey is finding a way to beat someone more powerful than them. 2. It's inside her dream while being possessed by a Grimm. It would make sense for Weiss to be more powerful in her dream since it's a world in her mind. Another plus that I wasn't expecting was seeing how desperate they were to find a way to beat Weiss, or Negative Weiss as some fans have called her. Since the rest of Team Rwby can't beat her together, Blake comes up with the idea to possess herself with the nightmare. In other words, fight fire with fire. However, I wasn't expecting Negative Blake to beat Blake turning into Adam. It was a nice touch having Negative Blake turning into Adam and having her not care about humans being killed. Blake left the White Fang because of how they went from wanting peace to being fine killing humans to get what they wanted. The one person that embodies that most is Adam, and chances are her turning into Adam would be a nightmare for her. It was also exciting to see Negative Weiss and Negative Blake fighting, because I always felt like Weiss and Adam should have had a confrontation in the original series. However, we never got to see them cross paths, and I still say it's one of the biggest missed opportunities in the series, and some fans have made similar complaints about that. I know it wouldn't make sense to have Adam show up in Ice Queendom to confront Weiss since it would have felt rushed, but it was a nice touch having Negative Blake be like Adam and fighting Negative Weiss. It's like they heard fans suggesting that fight would have been fun to see and found a way to make it happen in Ice Queendom. So as I said earlier, for the most part, the series was great. However, there are a couple of things worth pointing out that some might have an issue with when watching Ice Queendom. First, the series can be slow at times. I don't think it's a big problem, since I am okay with a series that has a slower pace, but Rwby usually has a faster pace with its story. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but you do have to be patient with this story since it moves at a slower pace. My second criticism is there's never a big moment for Rwby to take charge or show that she's the leader. Technically she does when they enter Weiss's dream for the last time, but when they get beat again, Rwby starts to doubt herself since she blames herself for Weiss being possessed by a nightmare and not noticing till it got too powerful for them. I wouldn't have a problem with this since it could be a chance for Rwby to learn from it and improve, but it's not her that comes up with the final plan to beat Negative Weiss. That was Blake who decided to use the nightmare that was inside of John so that she could be strong enough to fight her head to head. I would have preferred if Rwby had been there when Blake pitched the idea and Yang was against it. It would have given Rwby the chance to stand up and say she was the leader and trusted Blake to infect herself with the nightmare. Then again, I am hopeful that Shaft will make their version of Rwby into a whole series, so maybe we'd get moments like that in a sequel if they do decide to make one. Even with those issues though, I still say Rwby Ice Queendom is worth watching. Rwby Ice Queendom did something I didn't think was possible. It made me a fan of Rwby again. I don't think I'll ever return to the original series, but I'd love for Ice Queendom to become a full series moving forward. Again, Ice Queendom feels like a series that listened to fans' complaints and made improvements we've wanted to see for years. I also feel like the series can go on from here, and I do feel like Ice Queendom ends on a note showing there's room for a sequel. Personally, if they want to have another season and focus on another character, it would be nice to give Blake the spotlight. In Volume 2, she did receive more focus, and I think having her in that spot in a sequel would be the best way to go. They could also add Mercury and Emerald, still hunting defectors of the White Fang, but this time have Blake notice and try to hide it from her team. If I ever make a How I'd Write for a continuation of Rwby Ice Queendom, I'll go more into that idea. Anyways, back to my final thoughts on this review. Like I said in my first impressions video, you should give this a chance whether you're already a fan of Rwby, a former fan, or completely new to the series. I know I may be optimistic, but I hope this turns into a full series instead of being a one-off. Either way, I highly recommend you check out Ice Queendom for yourself and come to your own conclusions on that. And that was my review of Rwby Ice Queendom. As always, I'm curious to hear what all of you think. Do you think Ice Queendom should become a whole series instead of a one-off season? Do you believe Shaft's version of Rwby is better than Rooster Teeth's? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to see more of my content in the future. I'll also leave a link in the description to the video I referenced from Manga Common if anyone is curious to see more of his thoughts on Rwby. Also, I have a whole playlist of Rwby videos, including a video on why I like the Ice Queendom version of Yang more than the original, so be sure to check that out if you want to see more of my content. As always, I'm Marcus Strange. Stay safe, stay strange.